All right, it looks like we're live. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Guy Aitchison's Reinventing the Tattoo Community, a place where tattooers, apprentices, collectors, and the curious are encouraged to join in these live events, real world events, to share and inspire with the goal of ultimately creating better art and tattoos together every day. We beam out nearly every day, and with your help, we have evolved into a quality network of amazing live and on demand reruns of tattoo and art shows that can be found right here in our library. We've got lots of different stuff going on at community.reinventingthetattoo.com. And I'm pointing this out because there's, like I said, awesome shows happening almost every single day. So we've got this event, other events. Something coming up today is an ancient American art with Professor Newland D. Wernes-Rude, PhD. Really looking forward to that type of academic stuff to help us better understand, the history of tattooing, which really helps to know where we're going. You may be beaming in from YouTube or Facebook. Otherwise, you could be listening to this podcast. But you can always get the latest event schedule in your app store or at community.reinventingthetattoo.com. In your app store, you can find us at Reinventing the Tattoo, Google Play, or Apple, whichever you prefer. Also, right now, we have goodie bags available for anybody who's watching. To enter one, go reinventingthetattoo.com/sample pack. And Ricardo has been kind enough to submit some of his designs for t-shirts for you guys. So if you do sign up, our stock is a little bit limited, but we have tons and tons of those sample packs available. Beyond that, our friend Jason at Philly Inc. does a reinventing drawing group every single Sunday at 1 p.m. It's a great place for all skill levels to join, to work on a drawing, maybe get a critique on a tattoo you did the previous week, or to work on a design you're doing maybe the next day or the following week. Again, all skill levels are welcome, and that's every Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern. Also, Jake Meeks from our affiliate Fireside Tattoo Network has his own drawing group as well on Monday mornings at 9 a.m. And this is brand new. Today's episode number 2 with Ricardo, and his drawing group will focus on different topics that we'll kind of expand on throughout our, we'll circle back to throughout our course. And that's every Tuesday at 10 a.m. Eastern. Beyond that, every Thursday at 12 p.m., we have the Tattoo Collecting Podcast, which is pretty cool. We've discovered a lot of different things about people. We bring in collectors all the time to show off their work, to talk about stuff that you might not hear and you really need to hear as a collector. Also, we do have some pretty cool real world events coming up, and I know Ricardo will be there, Jason will be there, Kirsten will be there in Belgium. We'll be going to Belgium in November, the International Tattoo Convention there in Brussels. Also, a really cool event. It's a Paradise BYOB. Thank you, Gabe, for putting this together for everybody. And that will be October 3rd to 6th in Jimmy Peak. I know we're all excited for that one as well. Next year, we'll be going to Hell City, May 20th to 22nd in Columbus. And the Rock River Tattoo Art Expo is coming back July 8th to 10. We're really looking forward to that. So again, I've been talking a little bit about this community that is brand new, a network, needless to say, is brought to you by our sponsors, and we want to highlight those guys right now for you. Now, if you guys know me, you know I'm with Raw Pigments, and we're happy to be a part of the Reinventing the Tattoo community. We've got a stellar lineup of acrylic-free colors, and we'll be traveling to conventions near you coming up this year. So we're a team of industry-leading professionals. We've got a lot of expertise, decades, I will say, of experience creating pigments for companies, and we're excited to have our brand open to you guys. Also, we have inkjet stencils. If you haven't used them, you can go to inkjetstencils.com to see a starter kit. Donna has all these awesome products available for you, and we're really excited to be working with her further. So stay tuned for some of our live interviews with her artists. We've also got Dermalize Pro, known internationally as Dermalize Pro, known in the US as DLize Pro. And thank you for them for supporting us. They've got lots of different products available at dermalizepro.com for tattoo aftercare. And also, we would like to highlight Alex at World Tattoo Events. Thank you for supporting Reinventing. He has all of the latest conventions around the world, one of the best collectives of tattoo conventions that I've seen. Anywhere you look in the world, things are kind of unpredictable, but we know that we'll be doing stuff here in the US. For example, this Tattoo Collectors Expo. If you missed it yesterday, I did a quick little interview with Sam and Art, the promoters from Worldwide Ink Mag, to do this, and they're really looking forward to it. That's happening August 13th to 15th in Dallas, Texas. And if you haven't been to Dallas, it's hot as hell. but it's definitely worth the visit. Ricardo will be representing raw pigments, and we will be doing a little bit of a live streaming on Sunday evening, which brings me to my last point. Gabe Ripley, myself, and Jake Meets are doing a weekly show. It'll be awesome. It'll be about an hour long every Sunday evening, and we'll be talking about kind of some of the highlights of the week from the Fireside Network, some highlights that I bring and Gabe, and should be a good time. So tune in every Sunday at 8 p.m. All right. Beyond that, it looks like we're ready to kind of kick off into this drawing group. Ricardo, how are you feeling today?
Yeah, I'm feeling pretty good. How about you, Lauren?
Pretty good. I'll say it's a Tuesday morning, nothing better.
Yeah, no doubt, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for the intro. I'm happy to have helped out with the shirts and be able to give those, to everybody that's participating. And I'm really stoked to be down in Dallas with you. I'm looking forward to that. Dallas is super hot, especially around that time of year. It's going to be crazy.
Yeah. So can we touch on that real quick, Ricardo, with us going
Absolutely.
to Dallas? Are you going to
Yeah.
be doing some cool art, or are you going to be tattooing? What's your plan?
Yeah, the goal is to be able to do both, you know what I mean, as well as networking with people, talking to them, getting to meet everybody that's going to be involved, especially with the raw pigment crew. I couldn't be happier to be able to be going down with you guys and be invited to do something like that. It's an awesome experience already.
I think that one fun thing that we could do, Ricardo, before maybe the convention starts, if anybody's watching and wants to join in, feel free. We could do like maybe a morning draw group or get coffee and draw before the convention. I think it'd be a lot of fun.
Man, that's a killer idea. I'm all in. I'm in. It's got to be after I go to the gym in the morning though, because you're going to be getting up with me too.
Okay. Yeah.
All right.
We're done.
All right, killer. Everybody heard it.
All right. Well, let's jump into today's lesson.
Yeah. Thanks again. Like I said, my name is Ricardo Sturdivant, and I'm happy to be here with you guys for the second episode of Drawing Large to Small. Let's see, where do we go? Last week, how about we cover some stuff from last week? I think I remember in the conversations we were talking about the process of drawing with shapes, recognizing shapes and tonal values and stuff like that. We went over some definitions, some terms as far as artwork goes. So we'll kind of touch on that real quick. And I think one of the things that I liked the most last week was when we were talking about the way we layer things up. I'm pretty excited about it. The way it starts real soft. And I think one of the viewers were pretty happy about the layering approach that we can achieve in charcoals. So we'll be going over some more of that today too. We also, like I said a little bit ago, discussed shapes in its simplest form. Everybody was pretty stoked about how simple it can really be once we start dissecting it and kind of tearing it apart and making it what it actually is, which is just simple shapes and simple forms. And of course, one of the things that I liked the most also was the discovery through the process and understanding our basic fundamentals. So that was last week, and today we'll be going over some new stuff. So I'm pretty excited to get into this. Let's see. Basically, to sum up, we're going to talk about some art terms. I feel myself that this is the right venue for me to be able to be open and honest about where I'm coming from. Like I said before, I'm enjoying this more now than ever. Being able to teach, I guess is what you would call it, or just being able to show my interpretation of how I approach art, and that people are getting benefits from it. It's been great. I got a couple Instagram messages last week about how it's helping them perceive their approach in a little bit of a different way. So that's great. So that was awesome to hear from me. But one of the benefits for me, more than anything about this whole process, is just learning as I go too. It's like I'm learning with all of you guys. My definitions and art terms are lackluster. I didn't know how to define what it was that I was doing for such a long time. So I've basically been doing a bunch of studying and writing down some definitions for everybody so we can kind of be on the same page. So it's pretty cool. It looks like Jason is jumping in. Good morning, sir. Hello, Jason. How are you today?
I'm doing well. Thank you for asking.
Thanks for jumping in with us today, man.
Welcome, Jason.
Welcome, welcome. Yeah, there we are.
All right.
Sorry for the delayed entrance. I had to drop my car off this morning so that it wouldn't explode on our way to Gettysburg.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, always helpful.
It really is, dude. Um, yeah. I'm excited to get down there with you guys. We're leaving this Thursday. I'm leaving this Thursday morning to come visit with Jason and Kier. We're going to be jumping in a car that hopefully won't explode on us, and we'll be heading down to the Gettysburg Tattoo Convention. So, been doing a
It's
lot
going to
of
be an
homework for that,
adventure either way, man.
one way or another, right?
Yep.
So, yeah, man, thanks for jumping in. I was just getting ready to go over some of these, what you and I have discussed since we first met, my interpretation and learning terms in art and defining terms in art, you know? So I'm pretty excited about this. And, I've learned this quite a bit from Jason himself whenever I was discussing like what it was that I was doing. He's like looking at me kind of confused, like, what are you talking about? So it's been pretty fun. You want to walk us through a little bit of that, Jason?
Uh,
Put you on the spot.
I drink and I know things.
There you go. That's a good way to look at it. That's a killer way to look at it.
You are an
True story.
inspiration, Jason.
Absolutely.
This is what I do. I drink and I know things.
Nice. The more you drink, the more we know. Why not just keep
Well,
going,
the more
right?
caffeine I consume, the more I can't stop talking, and the more, verbal vomit just comes out. So if you're getting something out of it, great.
Yeah, totally. Just don't do it on drunk critique night.
Oh, that's no good. No, that will not ever be broadcast live.
No, definitely not, dude. That was a good time though.
Me being reviewed during drunk critique is no,
Oh man,
not
that
a good
was
idea.
awesome of you to do that though. To just jump right in there,
Yeah,
It's pretty cool.
yeah, that was definitely interesting.
Mhm. Well,
But
yeah, man.
yeah, I mean, we were talking about art terms.
Yeah, we were just talking about art terms, and I was like, I've been thinking about it a lot lately, and I've been thinking about the correlation between like my art, what I do, what I draw, how I paint, the approach to my tattooing, the approach to my interaction with people, and I was kind of realizing that there's this influence from both sides of it, especially with like in my life, what I mean, I've realized that like us as physical humans, we're like literally we're fragile, you know what I mean? Our physical bodies are. We're flawed to a certain point, and then we're limited to a certain point as well. You know what I mean? So I think about that a lot, and I think about how immense this potential in a tiny living space that we have. You know what I mean? Like it's so incredible how we just kind of compartmentalize ourselves sometimes, just all in our mind. But I think that what I've realized the most is that the best part of these limitations is the point of our life could be argued that we're meant to overcome those limitations. And if we didn't have those limitations, it could also be argued that there's no direction. Does that make sense to you? And like I think we all know that we can be more than what we are. What do you think about that?
I would agree. I mean, we all have a certain potential, whether we realize it or not.
Mhm.
Um, being self-aware enough in order to see the potential that we have and to have the confidence to actually pursue that potential are two totally different factors. When looking at it from a, for lack of a better term, philosophical perspective.
Yeah.
Um, self-realization, self-actualization, and then self-motivation are huge factors in everything. Everything that we do, everything that we say, and everything that we achieve. We can be self-aware and we can know our own potential, but if we're not self-motivated enough to actually achieve that, to drive ourselves and be disciplined enough with our own behaviors, with what we do day to day, day in and day out, day after day after day, year after year after year, we won't ever achieve it. So we might know it, but we might not be able to achieve it. Um,
Yep.
So that's something that's definitely, it takes a while to get to that point where you can turn
Yes.
around and say, no, I'm confident I can achieve this goal, right?
Yeah.
But that's, I was listening to a podcast the other day, and they kept saying the difference between people that are self-proclaimed successes and people that are out there that haven't realized that successful potential yet
Hmm.
is that those people that are out there that are, have achieved a certain level of success in their life, they're going through and they're challenging themselves with monumental challenges every single day. And it's a consistency and a repetition of constantly being able to achieve that potential that can really take someone and elevate them and give them the self-confidence enough to pursue other challenges that they may have in their life.
Yeah.
But that's moving down a whole like self-help kind of path. So let's try to
Yeah.
steer it back towards the art realm because
Well,
that's why I think people are joining in.
yeah, but like that's the thing with me is that I think that there's a correlation between all of that and my art. And I think that there's a correlation between all of that and a lot of our arts. It's because like, sometimes there's that need for that next step in another part of your life that influences our perspective,
Oh,
our idea
without
of like what
question.
art is. Yeah. So like there definitely is this whole like idea of self-help and stuff like that, and like self-motivation and stuff like that, and like listening to motivating videos every morning, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, all that hashtag woke stuff or whatever you want to call it, you know what I mean, which I don't really believe in that term whatsoever. um, but um but I think that, in my life now, I think it's good to be able to find these areas and target them, and like do my best to address them as directly as I can, and like I think that what you're talking about and what I love about this community is that it's the right place and the right platform to be able to do it, and just being here alone, meeting you that first Sunday has been incredible. And it's definitely helped me in this realization so far. So
Well, a lot of
go
what
for
I
it.
think that comes down to, when you really sit back and you really look at things, and I know you'll second this as well.
Yeah.
It's the only reason why I'm kind of mentioning it is that we're both very self-critical people.
Yeah. Yeah.
We'll sit back and look at something we just did, whether it's a painting, a drawing, a tattoo, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's a quick little napkin sketch, right?
Mhm.
We'll
Yeah.
sit back and we'll look at it and we'll analyze it and we'll start to pick it apart and we'll start to ask ourselves, okay, how can we improve this? Right?
Right.
What can I do to bring this to another level? What can I do to elevate this up to the potential that I know it has?
Right.
And it's people that sit back that don't bother to look at their stuff and not worrying about anyone else, not thinking about anything else, not looking at, oh, what is this guy doing and how is what I'm doing comparing to that? No, that's irrelevant.
Hmm.
You need to judge yourself based off of yourself, right?
Right.
So you can only judge your own progress based on your own critique of your own work,
Right.
right? So it
Yeah.
all turns around and it's like looking into a mirror, right? You have to kind of like separate what you've done from who you are, who just did whatever it is you just did, right? So you have to have that kind of separation there so you can stand back and say, okay, if I'm looking at this painting that I just did, but if I didn't do it,
Hmm.
right? If someone else I know did this, what critique and what advice would I give them?
Right. Yeah.
You know, yeah, I've seen you literally do it subconsciously,
Yeah.
and
Awesome.
I see you do it all the time, nonstop.
Yeah.
Like I see that little hamster inside your head. He gets up onto that wheel and he just starts going, man. And
Yeah.
he just starts going and he's like, yeah, I can get the food pellet. I can get it. I can get it. I can get it.
Absolutely.
Right.
His name is
And
George.
next thing you know, he's starting a fire with how fast he's running around in this wheel inside your head. you know, and it's awesome to see that, because that's what it really takes to
Right.
bring us to another level. That
Right.
and the pursuit of knowledge, right? So
Yeah.
if we can turn around and we can be critiqued by ourselves, but unless we seek some kind of like advanced knowledge, unless we go and seek out people that know more than we do, or have a different knowledge set than we do, we're never going to reach that next level.
Right.
Okay? You
Yeah.
have to be willing to invest in yourself in
Absolutely.
order to achieve something more.
Yep. Absolutely, man. And I think the best part was opening myself up to criticisms, the constructive criticism and such, you know. That was an important one for me for sure. And like you said, you're always analyzing, you're always thinking. So you're always thinking that somebody else is going to analyze you as harshly or harsher than what you do yourself. So if you can change that perspective into like it's a beneficial thing for both of you. Because you brought up that term mirrors, you know what I mean? And like we're all mirrors to each other, you know, and we all feel the same things, you know what I mean? So if you open up your ideas and your perception to that concept that we're all in the same boat, we all don't want to be put on blast, so to speak, you know what I mean? And but if you open it up in a way of perceiving it as a benefit instead of a negative, it's so fucking amazing. I'm sorry to
Well,
cuss like that, but it's
I would
incredible.
agree to an extent.
Okay.
I would agree to an extent with that, because there are a lot of people out there that
Mhm.
are hypercritical
Yeah.
of other people's work, that are more than willing to provide feedback on it, but don't know how to properly criticize work,
Yep.
right? They don't know. They, you know, you might be talking to someone that might not have ever graduated from kindergarten art class, right? Who
Yes.
literally has no concept of how to fully render and shade a sphere,
Yes.
which is something that we all start off doing.
Yeah. Basic
Right?
shades. Yeah. Mhm.
So, you know, you might have someone that uses the cop out, oh, that's my style, right?
Yeah. Right.
Well, that's not a style. Ineptitude is never a style. You know, lack of knowledge is not a style. Lack of quality or care is not a style, right? It's
Yeah.
not. You need to know how to provide a beneficial and an educational critique in order to critique. And that's
Yes.
something that I think a lot of people are missing, right? So you
Hmm.
can't just go through and say, wow, this sucks. It's like, okay, well, how is that beneficial? How does that help the person whose work you're critiquing?
Right.
Or, or I would have done this differently. It's like, okay, but why? You're not
Right.
explaining things. You're not getting into that nitty gritty. You're not going through and being beneficial. You're not being helpful by saying, I don't like it, or I would have done this differently, or, you know, I don't like that color there. It's like, well, but you're not explaining things. All you're saying is what you like and what you don't like. You
Yeah.
know, I always try to approach critiques in the sense that I'll turn around and ask the person who just did something, who's asking me to critique their work. I'll sit down with them, and I like to sit down with them on a more personal level. And
Hmm.
I'll ask them, okay, first thing I want you to do is tell me what you like about it.
Yeah.
Right? Tell me what you like
Yeah.
about it.
It's
What do you
incredible.
think you've done really well? What do you think that you've really accomplished in this? What do you think, you know, was something that you really went above and beyond and really pushed yourself to do better in this piece?
Right.
And you'll
Right.
establish that. Then I'll ask them for, what do you think you could improve on in this? And be
Hmm.
specific, right? Because the
Hmm.
more specific you are when you're explaining these things, the more benefit you're going to get out of it.
Yeah. Absolutely. And
You know,
I could see the benefit of asking them that question, you know what I mean? Especially when they're already looking at their work like this is what I've done really well. You know, and when you ask them about that, can you explain how you did that? And there's a lot of different tiers to that, Jason. I really like that approach because like, you know, there's a lot of different venues you can take at that point where it's like, you know, you discuss what it is that how you got to that point, how you arrived to that point, and what it is that you can focus on that makes it just a little bit more finite to push it over that extra little edge, right? And you can really address and zero in on all this other guff and just nonsense that it takes in order for you to be able to get to that point. All these other distractions and everything like that. So that's killer, man. I like that. That's awesome.
But so I approach critiques in a very different way. I approach it from the fact of I'm trying to help people be able to do this on their own.
Mm-hmm.
So they can turn around and say, okay, I'm going to imagine that, Jason or Ricardo is sitting in the chair and we're talking about this piece. What do I really like about it? Oh, I really like this. What do I not like about it? What do I feel like I need to improve on more? Or what is the goal? What is the objective of this piece? What were you trying to accomplish?
Yeah.
If you were simply creating a work of art just to practice and exercise in color balance, then then you're going to be looking at something from a totally different perspective than you are if you're trying to sit down and look at craftsmanship and line quality, right?
Right.
Or value shading or separation of objects and layers or contrast or light source. If you're going into creating a piece with a sole objective of one thing, then you need to look at everything that's done in that piece through that lens.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So
That's killer, man. Thank you for
know,
sharing that
I
insight.
could talk about that for hours and could probably teach a course on it.
Yeah, no. I think that'd be killer if we could do that, man. I think it'd be awesome maybe if we could all, talk about turning that into an opportunity for us at some of these conventions even. You know what I mean? Where we could all just like do this loose kind of like group chat kind of thing, like in-person group chat thing where we just sit down, have a few beers and come up with some topics and let it fire, man. I think that'd be awesome. It'd be productive for sure. And I like doing that. I don't mind having a few drinks and sitting down and talking about this kind of stuff. You, me, and Kier and Bruno, we've done it for hours on end.
Oh yeah.
So it'd be
Many
awesome
times.
to be able to. Yeah, it'd be awesome to be able to include everybody else too. And, speaking of Kier, she just came into the chat a little bit ago. How you doing this morning, girl?
Hi. Good morning.
Good morning.
How is everybody doing?
We're
doing all right.
Fantastic so far.
I didn't want to interrupt the conversation, so I was patient.
You mean my soliloquy?
Is that what that is? Listen, you come into.
I'm going back to senior year of high school English class here.
Oh,
a soliloquy is when an actor or an actress goes off on a monologue and they're talking to themselves basically.
Yeah.
You always come in here with different terms that I learned, like the whatever octagon hydro, whatever the heck you were saying before.
Oh, what? The dodecahedron?
Yeah.
Dodecahedron. I was trying to remember it too. I was going to blurt it out, but he just said it. Couldn't do it. Nice job.
Dodecahedrons are sick.
It's so awesome too. It's just right here. It's just right here. You just go, bloop. You're like, that wizard in Harry Potter, just pulling out memories like nothing.
I have an extensive vocabulary.
Vocabulary.
Jason, did you say drawer?
Drawer.
Drawer's a good one.
It's a really good drawer.
Did you have
this makes me cringe.
Drawlers. Depends on what part of the country you're from. Drawlers.
Drawers.
Well, does he draw with a paintbrush or does he draw with a pencil or charcoal or pastels?
Yeah.
I think isn't like people with draw with pencils, aren't they called draftsmen? So
look at you. All right.
That would be the collegiate term. Yes.
Okay. Getting fancy up in here this morning, man. This is awesome.
I like being drawer.
I need my little cup of coffee, my pinky out on sipping this conversation.
I drink my coffee with a nice little piece of humble pie every morning.
Humble pie.
It's pretty good.
That's awesome.
So, Kier, do you have anything you'd like to shed on that kind of topic from your perspective?
I mean,
By any
Jason
chance?
kind of hit all the marks there. I mean, no, I don't think I really have anything to say. It's reinventing has been great for everything, and I wish everybody would join it to see how great it is, but it's only as great as you
Likewise.
make it, kind of thing. Like,
Right.
I mean, I only got reinventing just for the canon. Like, everything else has just been a bonus. So I think if you
Right.
just go into it with zero expectation, then you're gonna get way more out of it than what you want.
Mm.
So yeah.
Good thing. Nice. Killer. So maybe we should get back on the topic here then, if that's the case, because we're gonna just roll right through this. It's looking like time is flying right by us, guys. So, so basically, like I was talking to them about before, art definitions have always been a mystery to me. So we'll kind of go over some things that I've covered last week. Volume, for example, describes an object's three-dimensional form to create an illusion of volume. Our eyes, our brain, or use visual cues of light and shadow to recognize what is quote unquote real. Shape is a flat area surrounded by edges, and we'll talk a little bit about edges today, or an outline. It's a geometric shape often found in man-made materials or objects. But we're using geometric shapes to kind of easily pinpoint accuracy in our proportions and placement of light and shadow in an image to kind of try to bring it into fruition of this real in a sense. Form is when the shape uses value from a direct light source most of the time. And implementing contoured values, it creates dimension through light and dark relationships. Values are also referred to as a tone. This is the one that I was always like mixed up on: chroma, value, tones, et cetera, et cetera. It's the lightness and darkness of a color. It's arranged using black as the darkest tone and white as the lightest. When it comes to drawing a painting, value is supposedly argued to be the most important in creating images. We'll be implementing a 3-tone value scale: dark, medium, and light. I try to do that. That way I keep it simple. I will start introducing other values in its range, in the ranges. The no more finite kind of point of the process of drawing these skulls. And that's about it as far as terms. That's all we're going to use today. But some of the new things that we're going to be talking about today are observing points of shapes. We'll be doing this in order to make a more accurate depiction of our forms. These are how we observe the transformation of simple shapes, turning it into form and creating the illusion of the image we are depicting. So we do this with the appreciation of the idea and the concept that this is the illusion we create using light and shadows. Another approach or defining term that can be used is posterization. That is the simplification of values in order to achieve a logical and effective light and shadow pattern. So again, like I've been talking about this whole time, we get to a point where we approach our own truth as an artist, what it is that we see as our truth that we're trying to convey to the viewer, and how we use these elements of art to achieve that. But it's always observed by the artist. So there's never really any wrong way to do it, except for the idea that it, like we were talking about earlier with Jason, is that it can be a little bit more finite. So let's try to tune in on that today. Let's try to tune in on like implementing all these together in a cohesive way, instead of it being just so random, loosey-goosey. It's so direct forward. Today is the day. Let's see. I got some notes over here, so I'll just be reading off of them with you guys, so don't mind me just kind of glancing over every once in a while. Let's see. So, like I said, the truth is observed by the artist. It's obtained by our observation when we recognize our collective moments that form a perspective. So I'm going to go ahead and give us a little quick second, real fast, to adjust here. And I don't know if you guys did any of these drawings. Jason, Kira, did you guys get into any of these? No. I put some references up on the Reinventing the Tattoo forum, but I'll pull those up here real quick and screen share this with us. Great guys.
Do we have to do something?
No, No, we can do it on our iPad too, if you'd like to.
No, I was just gonna do
Be
it.
listening, guys, but I gotta step away for a second.
Okay,
Okay.
thanks, buddy. I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen here. All right, so we have a few of the references from last week. And like I said, like the 3 values, I've broken it down into 3 simple steps as well. It can get a little bit more detailed than this, but I try to keep it as simple as I can. That way I don't get confused and lost in all these super fine little details that you might see in some of these awesome looking tattoos that are being done these days with hyperrealism and whatnot. But it all stems from a basis. It all stems from a foundation. And this is what we're looking at here, which is the first step being simple observation. So what we've done is we've taken this overall image here. We've blurred our eyes to it. And what we've done is create this moment where it makes it just simple little shapes.
I have a question.
Yeah,
Okay, so when you are talking about like overall shapes and stuff, what should your eyes be looking for first? The internal shapes, like the positive shapes, or the overall outer silhouette shape?
that's a really good question. Thank you for bringing that up. I appreciate that very much. So what I do is I like to start out with simply, let's move this guy around here. Let's do this so we can go next up. So what I like to do here is I like to start out with a surface study. So it's just basically randomly making some strokes with the lightest tone of charcoal. We'll represent this with the light red today. And I try to cover as much of the canvas as I can, so I get rid of that white space. I do observe the internal shapes first, and I will go in with a medium tone after I've laid down this light tone. And I'll just start observing the eye socket area, what I perceive as the eye socket. And it's very loose, and it's very non-structured. And all I'm doing as I go and do this is I'm paying attention to these relationships and basic shapes. So the first thing my eye sees, I always gravitate towards these triangles. So the first thing I see is this triangular kind of shape here. And then I'll pay attention to these plot points, so to speak. And then I'll start kind of creating this linear image in my mind. And then I can judge the time and the space and the distance that these shapes are created by with light and shadow. This making sense?
Yes.
So all of this was just started off of this first point. So then whenever I approach my drawing, this is what I'm paying attention to as I'm looking over at the reference. So I will go back in and start smudging in a little bit more of these shapes, or scumbling, as we can call it. But it recognizes this little banana kind of shape here. Almost like a smiley face when you look at it. And then I will go back and forth between the outside perimeter of this shape, the silhouette, so to speak, and the interior shape in relation to it, and how that light and shadow affect each other.
And and your whole point with this too is that this isn't a permanent thing here, you can change it whenever you feel like it. This isn't the official shape of it, right?
Yeah, it's perfect. It's a perfect way to look at it, because that's exactly it. It's like, this is supposed to be so soft. You can see here in this other image that it's just shaped. Yeah, it's simple. You can achieve it really simply, and then you can also maneuver it around with like the gummy eraser. So that, what do I mean by that is, I can go in and then I can start getting to my focal points after I've erased some of that light tone. You can achieve that basic shape, the first one that I recognize, which is a triangle in this case. But yes, you're right. It's very manipulative. At this point, you can manipulate it quite a bit. It's very malleable, so to speak.
And if you weren't using charcoals, if you're doing like graphite or anything like that, would you still do it in the same manner?
Yes, I approach everything the same way. It's easy to achieve drawings a little bit faster. It's easy to get the information down a little bit quicker, because that's all we're trying to do is translate this information. But yes, I will definitely do it in the same process, no matter what medium it is I'm using, especially oil paints. Especially oil paints and acrylics. Acrylics are really fun because you get to do this process just as fast as you would with a dry medium, like charcoal or graphite or pen even. With the charcoal, or with the, let's see, with the graphite pencil, you just lay the pencil down a little bit more on the side and just kind of stroke it out a lot more open. Yeah, so this is kind of the process. I recognize also that there's this really finite, go with some teal. Like weird little rectangle.
So I got another question.
Yeah.
Did you start gravitating towards this method when you started practicing with those mediums, or did you already start having this mentality in your head before attacking charcoals and oil paints?
No, that's a good question too. For me, what it was is that I always paid attention to line work. I always paid attention to trying to get every little detail as I went, and it just killed the mood or the environment of the picture that I was trying to create or trying to replicate. And so I started recognizing like how much simpler this made things, just observing simple shapes and everything. So no, at first it started out very complicated. I started trying to implement each bit of information I could find on different line weights and everything like that. But I realized that there's a foundation to all of it. And I think maybe it's because I was participating in some funny tasting toppings on pizza. You know what I mean? And I would kind of see it when I was walking around at night. One night, just all these simple shapes and trees and simple shapes and people, especially in our faces. How simple it is whenever you can't really quite see the exact truth that you've been told.
And do
Does
you
that make
think that
sense?
understanding certain types of fundamentals of art is dependent on you figuring out which medium you gravitate towards most? Like, because there's so many different mediums, so that way, and there's different approaches to taking up those mediums. So do you think it'd be easiest to learn the fundamentals by first understanding which medium you understand best first?
No, I think that it'd be best to delve into everything. I think they can all lend to each other. The biggest thing for me was oil paints for sure. After those funny little walks and stuff like that, I was starting to get into oil paints and like trying to discover that process and the mediums and everything that were involved. And it was so daunting that I avoided it for such a long time. But what I'll say is that before that, I was messing around with acrylics. I was messing around with markers. I was messing around with colored pencils and tattoos, of course, and stuff like that. But I think it's important to broaden the horizon, so to speak, and to delve into all of it. So I think it all lends to itself. And one day, like with me, okay, so I say this quite a bit, but I go to the gym and I've learned some techniques in lifting, like especially squatting and deadlifting and such. And there's a lot of fundamentals that are taught to you just by stretching, leaning over, picking the bar up the right way, the way our body moves, and it all lends to itself with all these other little intricacies involved with each other and married to each other, so to speak, we learn that they are all part of this bigger cohesive piece. So I think learning all mediums and approaching all mediums with an open mind is the best way to go, because it will influence your art, it will influence your perspective, and it's going to change the way that your overall, image, your overall product, so to speak, as far as what it is that you're creating. Does that answer
Could
the
not
question?
agree more.
Okay, killer, man. I'm glad you guys feel the same way.
100%.
Yes, I feel the
Yeah.
same way.
Okay,
You know,
good.
there's elements like I dabble in every medium you can imagine, right?
Yeah.
From digital to markers to colored pencil to watercolor and gouache and acrylics, oils, liquid acrylics, which I mean, liquid acrylics are kind of my favorite medium. Right now I'm working on digital print, so I'm trying to get some of those together for sale. But you know, there's elements of everything that you can apply to whatever artwork you do, right? I mean, look at the translucency of working with liquid acrylics and watercolors and markers, and
Yeah.
how you can layer, you know, a red over a blue and create a purple,
Mhm.
right? So you can take that and you can apply that to different things. And you can apply the opaqueness of working with, you know, oils or acrylics or even soft pastels, right? Because those are the most opaque medium you can work with. So if you like being able to go through and mark over top of things, you know, maybe work with that. But there's always certain parts of everything that you can apply to everything else.
Yes. I agree with you completely. Especially when you come at it from an untrained kind of area. You know what I mean? I don't know about you, Jason. I think that you might have done some art studies in school, right?
Oh yeah.
But I mean, so it is good to have that education behind you and a person that's experienced in it teaching. But however, you're supposed to take that and apply it to your own perspective, your own view, your own reality of things. So like it is good to be able to have those, and your fundamentals as far as your process. But I think that it is important to understand that there's no real wrong or right way. That is a basis for things, but it's good to be able to explore it yourself and find out what works for you. There's a lot of creation and invention in those moments.
I think a lot of it also comes down to identifying
Hmm.
what you want your end result to look like,
Right.
you know, because if you can identify what you want your end result to be, you can more easily go through and identify the medium in which you'll need to use in order to achieve that desired result,
Hmm.
right? You can go through and you can say, okay, I want to do a hyper photorealistic representational portrait. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
that may lend itself a lot more to working in things such as oils or
Right.
working in things such as, you know, watercolor, if you know how to do it right, or
Hmm.
working with things like, you know, colored pencil, even, you know,
Hmm.
something where you can go through and you can layer a few times and you can really make the correct and appropriate blends. Yes,
Yep.
there are additives you can add into different mediums to achieve the same kind of a result. But overall, you're going to get that kind of a layering process and a very refined, very realism kind of feel if you're using things such as oil, or if you're working in a monochromatic black and gray medium, maybe charcoals or soft pastels, Conti crayon. When you
Hmm.
start to get into things more graphic in nature, you might start looking at things more like acrylic paints or graphic markers. Um, you know, even other aspects of colored pencil, you know, liquid acrylics, where you can lay down large swaths of solid block color, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
So depending on your final result and your final outcome, you may want to adjust the medium that you're using to achieve that kind of a desired result.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
That's a very good way to look at it. I agree with you completely, man. It's always incredible how one can lend to the other. Quite incredible. So, uh, so let's see. I did have some examples. You guys want to watch a little video real quick together? We got a little bit of time.
Yeah, that's cool.
Okay, I'm gonna screen share something, and it's kind of goes over, this posturization.
Hey, Ricardo, when
Actually-
you're sharing, just make sure that you share the audio. There's a little checkbox at the bottom of the screen share.
Okay, killer.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Yep.
Let's see. Actually, we'll try it again next week. So let's just go over some more of this other stuff here. I wanted to go over a couple things about pinpointing our shapes. I'll go ahead and share the screen one more time. You guys real fast. I did want to get to our composition, but I think we'll wait for next week for that one. So today's conversation was awesome. I think that's we're gonna go back into our references. All right, so we're gonna go back into our references. So after we have these basic shapes that we're talking about, recognizing them, like Kira was talking about with the, do we go with the ones on the interior first or the exterior? But either or, they both work out together, really. So once we start getting to this point of our image looking a little blurry like this, we're gonna start refining. We're gonna start edging, not lining. We're gonna start edging. And so what we'll do is we'll just go on with a little bit of a tighter motion in our subject matter and with a darker value. So I like to use the flat brush in Procreate a lot. It's what I draw everything with, especially whenever we're doing this first foundational stuff. And all we're going to go in and do is start recognizing the darker values, the darker value shapes within these exterior shapes that we've created. So all we're doing is recognizing these darker shapes here, darker values. We're going to really pinpoint on focusing in on them. So the other thing that I like to do in this process at this point in time is I will start really paying attention to what we've known as like a graph or a scale. But what I like to do, maybe this is just me, but I like to throw basic geometric tree of life into everything that I do.
I think that's because you're obsessed with triangles.
That could be part of it.
I'm surprised you don't have a triangle tattooed on you, dude.
Give him time.
Maybe. But I think personally, my observations is that this shape is in everything we witness, everything we observe in life. These people's faces, cars, everything. I always do that to myself. So at this point, I will start focusing on these plotted points. And I use that as my foundation for proportions. We can see how this is parallel, this overall shape. This is also parallel. It all intersects. We're all intersecting points of energy. At some point in time in our life, we intersect with each other and we influence each other in one way or another, positive or negative. And I see this more and more in my art. So like Jason said, either I'm obsessed with it or I just make it out of nowhere, but I think that it's there for sure. So in that side of that jumbled mess, I hope you guys can kind of keep up with what I'm doing here. And I'll make a more clear version of this and post it up on the IRT forum so that way we can all kind of follow along with it. But yeah, that's pretty much the basis of where I would start working almost every image off of. Yeah.
Wait, are we supposed to be drawing too? Because I am.
Yeah, no, totally. You can totally draw. Why don't you share with us what you're drawing?
I just took a skull reference just to kind of follow you the early stage, I guess. I don't know if you can see it.
Killer. So you're going with more of the linear approach. Let me spotlight you real fast. Hang on one second. Get you over here. Where are you at? Here you.
I mean, I like using lines to help with proportions and circles. So
Yeah.
I don't know if that's wrong.
No, it's not at all. It's not at all. It's the way we observe things. And if that makes sense to you, it looks great. It looks spot on. It's very
I do
believable.
the same thing.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
deconstruct everything down into basic shapes as like wireframes and then build
Mhm.
off of the wireframe.
Right.
It's definitely more of an illustrator's approach to anatomy
Uh-huh.
as
Mhm.
opposed to a more representational approach.
Mhm.
It's just what I found works for me for getting basic form, basic shape, and things. And then that way I can kind of go through and control my angles a little bit better. You know,
Yeah.
starting off with a circle with like a dividing line going down that, and then a horizontal line, and then dividing that up even more. So, but it all gets built off of a circle, right? That
Right.
or a sphere, which is what you have to kind of imagine it to be. So
Right.
I've really been enjoying diving into this process that you're detailing, because
Mhm.
it's giving me a different perspective to look at things from.
Awesome. That's awesome too. Thank you so much. That's good.
Like I even noticed last night in some of my like rough thumbnails, like I was using more of this process where I was going through blocking in generalized shapes and values and like rough concept of, okay, well, I want this area to be here and I want that area to be here, and here's a very messy kind of like way that I can draw out the jawline and the teeth and the eye sockets and the nostril socket, and so I can go through, and I was just playing around with like blocking stuff in, keeping it very, very rough, and then refining as I was going. And I ended up finding myself getting too caught up in refining those shapes to
Yeah.
really go through and have too much progress. But
Gotcha.
when you've got a solid idea and you're working on that idea and you already know what you want it to look like, it's a great way to do it.
Right. Yeah. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. One of the other things to kind of go in on what you're saying and elaborate a little bit more is one of the other reasons that I like this is it's helping me discover the relationship between light and shadow in, like what you said, that form, like taking the shape into the form, right, and then adding those light sources to it. It kind of evens out the entire white background for me. It takes away that initial anxiety that you might get from staring at a blank canvas. And I learned that in the underpainting process with oil paints is like, one of the first things you do is across the surface, you get it kind of wet so that oil can spread out a little bit more. Basically is what it is. And that I started applying it to on my drawings and stuff like that. And what I find is that it helps create those forms a little bit sooner for me versus going in with a wireframe. But don't get me wrong, I think that you have a very solid point when you're talking about wireframing, because with the correct curvature and line work and their relation to each other and contouring it, you can create a lot of depth and dimension all on its own, you know? So it's pretty interesting that you can apply both definitely in the same aspect, the same kind of perspective, really. So it looks like Faith joined us. How you doing, Faith?
Hey, what's up?
How's your day? How's your day today?
Good, good. I was getting ready for work, but sorry I was late. That's cool though. The thing that when I draw from life, or pretty much always, I use triangulation, which is 2 points and then find the other one. But I never thought to like make a triangle geometric around kind of like beforehand. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Like I just pick points, but I never thought to pick points that weren't, I guess, part of the subject, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
It's cool.
Yeah, it's like you know, that geometric tree of life is in a lot of different, like, you know, imagery and you know, ancient kind of like symbols and stuff like that. One of them being is like the seed of life. You know, I fell in love with that symbol, man, back in 2008 or 2007, and I started, like Jason said, obsessing over it and just seeing it everywhere, and then like realizing it's, even though it's circular, even though it looks so complicated, there's these just straight angles in it, you know, that builds this circular composition that encompasses everything. And it starts from this origin point right in the center, you know, and it just kind of emulates out from there. And it's, I like it, you know, I don't know how else to explain it. It just makes sense to me. And I'm glad that you guys are finding some benefit to it too. So that's awesome. That makes me feel pretty good about it. Thanks. Have you been,
basically, Ricardo, I just go through and do whatever the opposite of you say to do, and it's been working really well.
That's awesome. You know what? I'm gonna take that as a win, because one way or another, you're achieving something, dude. So it's all good.
Oh.
That was a joke, by the way.
I got you, man. I got you. Yeah.
I know you do, but I'm explaining to anyone else that might be watching.
Right.
I think we all know that you're just a ball of sarcasm by now, Jason.
Oh, gee, really? What was the giveaway there?
I
There it
hate
is.
you.
There it is. There it is right there. I was just about to say, how does that saying go? I'm so sarcastic, I'm not even sure if I'm being sarcastic sometimes.
Yeah, actually, that's a pretty accurate statement.
That's what your banner should say, Jason.
If you guys don't mind if I chime in for a second, I've got some people commenting on our YouTube. They're
Yeah.
loving this already. They're saying that you guys are smart people right there. I have to
Nice.
agree. So yeah, they're really enjoying the content. Keep it up.
Killer. Let's see if I can't, you know what? See, now I'm gonna try to mess with this a little bit later. But next week, I'm gonna try to play a couple little like video clips and stuff like that I'd like to kind of point out some of the, like we were talking about earlier, the posterization techniques and stuff like that, and you know, plotting points and, you know, noticing angles and geometry and stuff like that, and inorganic life forms. So next week we'll be on the ball, guys. But before that, does anybody have any drawings or anything like that they want to share, or anything that they've been working on this week, or what they have going on that might they're looking forward to? I know for myself, I can tell you that I don't tattoo until possibly Friday, because I'm going to be at the Gettysburg Tattoo Convention, taking some walk-ups and just have some art there and hanging out, drawing. And we'll probably be doing some live streaming and stuff like that. Jason, Kier, myself will all three be there. And I'm super excited to delve into this new tech stuff that I've been learning about and fumbling through this whole time. And, you know, involve everybody else, even if you can't be there in person. It's going to be great to just, for you guys to just chime in, man, and say what's up, either over the digital forum or, you know, the old analog in-person kind of way. So, what about you guys?
Yeah,
Faith, you got anything
it's
going
going to
on?
be a blast. I mean, I've got a couple of tattoos I'm doing this week, but I spent most of last night just breaking down my like tech setup. That's why my camera looks a little bit weird today, because I'm using my built-in webcam as opposed to like my normal setup.
Yeah.
So I only have one camera accessible right now. Everything else is kind of broken down and packed up. I always try to be proactive and like start packing in advance, you know, before the day comes. Otherwise, I end up forgetting like a third of the things that I need. And that's not good. So I always try to start packing 2 or 3 days in advance. And last night was tech setup. So I got my digital camera all packed up and put away, got my webcams packed up and put away, got all my little like camera stands packed up and put away. Got a few more to pack up and put away at the studio and bring with me. But yeah, I don't really have any drawings per se for this week. A lot of them are just continuing sessions and small little quick bangers.
Nice. Maybe you can write down a little outline on suggestions for packing and stuff like that for people like me. I'd love to. I'd
Don't
love to
act
read
like me. That's
Yeah.
going to be the best suggestion I can give everyone, because I will literally bring, I might see something and be like, you know what? I'm probably not going to use this, but I'm going to bring it with me anyway.
Man, you're always the dude though, and you're like, oh, you need that? I got it. Don't sweat it. Damn it.
Yeah. It's like, oh, you need an adapter? I got you.
I think that was the catchphrase.
You
while
have
we were
that kind of a
together in
phone?
Marion.
Hold on. Let me
Yeah.
grab this charger for you.
Yeah,
Right.
pretty much. Yeah, dude, you're on it. It's awesome.
You know, but
Yeah.
there are a couple of, I mean, even if we wanted to do a short little segment on convention supply packing and recommended like travel cases and stuff like that, I've got some good ideas. So
Good, love it. Love it. Love to hear it.
Hey, I was gonna ask, Faith, are you from, where are you from again?
I'm from Port St. Lucie, Florida.
Oh, okay. Are you doing any shows in Florida this year?
Not that I know of. We're switching locations, our shop in like a month, so we're all kind of focused on that at the moment.
Yeah, Port St. Lucie I've been to several times. That's close to where the H Tuition headquarters is, correct? Like in Stewart?
Yeah, it's right next to Stewart.
Cool, awesome. It's really beautiful down there.
Yeah, it's nice. I'm from Delray, so it's like an hour and a half south. I just moved up here to work with the guy I'm working with now.
Awesome. Well, when I'm in Florida, I'll see if I can get a hold of you.
Absolutely.
Cool, nice.
Yeah.
So how about you, Faith? What do you got going on?
I'm doing this one tattoo. It was supposed to be today, but she moved it to Friday. But I started painting last night, acrylic painting.
Yeah.
And I was trying to focus on both just being more deliberate with like not taking the shape so seriously, you know what I mean? Just get the idea, like the soft, kind of what you were talking. And I was also trying to figure out how to use warm and cool contrasts, because that's what Jason told me yesterday. So I was
That's
trying
awesome.
to focus on those, but I'm trying to do like, and I could show it to you. I'm
Yeah,
trying to do
check it
like
out.
an orange and blue, and then red and green.
Nice spotlight here.
Painted so far. You see, that's the reference.
Okay.
And then I just started putting in like I'm not really sure where I'm going with that sky yet,
Uh-huh.
but I don't know if you can see kind of like, you can see the dark shapes is what I was putting in,
Yep.
and just trying to work with browns and grays, and I don't know.
So you're approaching it with some muted stuff right now, like some muted tones right now, because the red looks pretty bright and intense so far, but the greens and those browns down at the bottom, the landscape, definitely look muted for sure.
Everything on the kind of on the bottom is all kind of desaturated, and then I like to go in and there's a little bit of bright, but I'm trying not to use any pure bright. And kind of the sky I want to tone down quite a bit, but
Mhm.
I'm going to try and make it an overall kind of like an orange painting, like kind of make the sky like where all the white is. I'm going to try and make a lot of orange to kind of make it look, and then kind of like feed it into
Yeah.
the blue of the water somehow. That's kind of what I'm going for. But
well, I was actually just going to ask you about that. If you're going to be making the sky primarily orange and warm, are you planning on doing like a wash over of that blue with, say, you know, an orange or a burnt
Yeah.
orange or yellow, or, you know,
Yeah,
just
like
to
some-
kind of wash over it to tone it down and neutralize it more and reflect more of the color from the sky?
yeah, the idea is I'm kind of like, it's almost like an underpainting, the blue and the green, and then I'm going to try and kind of put the light on top of it was going to be the approach. And to kind of make it like towards the girl, maybe have a little more blue. And then kind of over to the left up near the sky, I was going to try and like increase the orange. I'm just trying to think about the light as, or the sky as a light source. If that makes sense.
Gotcha.
Yes, that makes total sense.
So it's
That
kind
would
of
be
coming from the
really
top
cool.
left. Yeah.
It'll help kind of create like an ambience kind of effect, right? Like an atmosphere.
Right. Like I was struggling when I first started using split complementary and stuff. I would always try and like, I would make the subject like orange and then make the whole background blue. But I realized that I have to like keep most of the painting orange if I want that to be the dominant color. So I'm kind of trying to focus on just making sure that the color I picked at the beginning to begin with
Mhm.
ends up being the dominant color. Because I wasn't getting that right for a while.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
one of the cool things that I could tell you about acrylics is that they dry really fast.
Yeah.
And you know, when I approach acrylic paintings, like for example, that the ground that the shape is sitting on, is that like wood? Is it gonna be wood or something?
Yeah, it's like a dock.
Okay.
It's like a wooden
So
dock.
yeah, that's cool. All right, that's gonna be a really cool painting. So like what I'll do if it was me is I would take that entire rectangular shape from the bottom right to the left is I would paint the entire shape, that one dark tone. You know, I would even
Okay.
go a little bit dark. I would go even a little bit darker with it. Like try not to get lost too much in
That
color
triangle, you
down
mean?
the final color. Yes, the brown
This
shape down
one?
here at the bottom.
That?
You got it. Well, that and then what she's sitting on too.
This
You know,
whole
I
thing?
would. Yep.
Block
whole
it
thing?
all in.
Yep, I would block it all out. Exactly, Jason. You just block it
Gotcha.
all out. Even the wood gradations or the wood pattern that you have on that side plank there, you know, just pick the lightest tone. But like you want to separate it from dark to medium to light. So in the reference
Right.
that you have, it looks like that wood plank that's on the side facing us is going to be the lightest one out of those three shapes. So you already
Right.
have the under the tier darker, the top a medium, and then
Right.
I would do that. So I would just block it all in as those three simple tones. And
I
then
gotcha.
and then after that, you start paying attention to the smaller shapes that are in it that are darker of that same tone. That's when you
Yeah.
can start mixing in your, you know, your colors to kind of create those different hues that you're looking for, like as far as the way the light source would hit it and how it's reflected and how it's interacting with the origins of the light source.
So you would start with dark. I always painted middles and then put darks and lights in. You go dark and then, is that what you
Yep.
mean?
Yeah, I always go dark to light. And I learned that with oil paints, especially. You know, what I've discovered is that it's easier to for me, it's easier to recognize those highlighted areas, and then like use those as plotting points as far as the proportions and the correct placement of all the darks and lights go after I pick those highest ranges of value.
Got you.
So that's the reason that I like in the skulls, for example, that I've been drawing recently. That's why I've been showing you guys. Like the first thing I see is that triangular shape on that skull reference that I used. That's the highest form of light being hit on that shape is that bright triangle that I see right in front of my face every time.
Ricardo, I think you're coming at it from a different perspective, though.
Yeah.
I mean, my own process involves tinting my canvas so that I'm
Yes.
not working with anything super bright. So in essence, I'm kind
Yeah.
of following along with what Faith does because I'm starting out with that mid-tone
Uh-huh.
where I don't have any super brights built
Right.
into that image just yet. Right.
Okay.
So I always tint it that way I can push and pull a little bit more. I don't tint it very dark, but you know, I will go through and I'll do like a light wash of like a neutralized gray or you know, maybe if I know I want my primary bright color to be orange, I would go through and I would neutralize blue, like a brighter blue with a little bit of orange, thin it way out, like mix in a ton of water with it and do like a light wash over the whole canvas with that, let that dry. Then I'd start blocking stuff in, starting with my darker areas. But the whole time I'm starting out with a canvas that has no white in it.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm not working from pure dark with my whites already being there, because in essence, in that case, you're starting out with, you're working light to dark. Because if
Mhm.
your canvas is already white, and it doesn't matter if you're working in Procreate, acrylic, charcoal, anything. If your canvas is already white, then you're working light to dark by default.
I see. Okay, and you and Faith are both coming from the approach of this color value as well. Like you're approaching it with the color value in a sense. And I always end up approaching it from like a tonal value.
Right, right. But I
Yeah.
mean, even if you were working in monochromatically, like
Right. Yeah.
so with those skull studies that you're drawing, you're working
Yeah.
on top of white paper.
Uh-huh.
So by default, you're starting out light
I get
and
you.
then building dark on top of it.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
You see what I'm saying? But
I
if you
do.
started
I
on
do
something
understand.
like a toned paper,
Mhm.
you would be able to push and pull and add in those light areas later on using something like a charcoal or a white paint or whatever. That's why you see a lot of people that have really started to work with toned paper or tinting their canvas a lot more, because it really allows them to create a full dynamic value range, in just the areas that they want to have true blacks and pure whites.
You know what? I can see where you're coming from. I can understand exactly what you're saying, because whenever I do work on toned paper, toned charcoal paper, I always end up starting with the white highlights first, because you already have that mid-range there. Is what you're saying.
Right.
But
Right.
I got you.
That's the way my mom
That's
says.
just something that I was pointing out. So, I mean, you're going to get a great end result no matter which method you use. It's just we're
Right.
approaching it from a little bit of a different perspective.
Gotcha.
That's like my mom uses the pastel paper, and then she takes one color pastel and she does the whole piece of paper like in a pink or something like that, and then she goes on top of that. But I never
Nice.
know which color to pick. But yeah, her pastels are really pretty, which I think because of that, she doesn't just use the tone paper. She actually puts a pastel, like covers the whole page with one color. And then in Procreate, the first thing I do when I draw is I put a little bit I turn the brightness down a little bit because it's too bright.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the same thing. Like I always keep the brightness at like 96 or 97. It's too bright.
It just clouds your vision of what it is you're gonna go for. Just too much like electricity in your face.
Yeah, I was trying to in that painting, I was trying to almost like one shot it, if that makes sense. Like in a tattoo, you go from bottom right, you kind of move up to the left.
Yeah.
I was almost trying to like put each color and section in as though I only get to do it once. Kind of, I don't know. I built these little challenges into myself. Like everything I do, it always has to be some kind of test.
That's great.
And I was trying to do the tree line. I was trying to figure out a way to make the top of the tree line warm and then the water cool. And I was going to try and make the back of that plank cool, but the top warm, because I'm trying to. Jason said something yesterday and it got in my head.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to figure out how that works.
I have a tendency to do that with people. I'm sorry. I apologize.
It's an awesome.
I make suggestions sometimes and like mention things, and sometimes people just like Ricardo and the golden ratio, and he just hasn't let that go ever since. I've tried to distract him. I've tried to talk him out of it, but he's just like fixated on triangles now.
Well, yeah, I think that's what we were talking about that very first time that I jumped in with you, is like you're mentioning the golden ratio. And I was like, oh yeah, triangles, dude.
Yeah. There's triangles everywhere, man.
Yeah. Pretty much. It's all there.
I'm looking at a
Diamonds,
sphere
triangles.
and all I see is triangles.
Oh, you have no idea. I haven't even started breaking that down to you yet. Especially when I add a contour line to that triangle, you're gonna love it. Yeah.
This is one of my mom's pastels. Can you see it?
Let me spot. Oh yeah. Yeah, look at that.
But you can see the orange kind of under everything. Like even the sky up in the white, there's that orange that she put down.
Mm-hmm. It kind of gives it that, like a softer gray or a softer kind of
And it just like ties it together.
Yeah. It definitely lets you
Chroma.
focus. What's that here?
Like chroma.
Chroma. There you go. That's a great piece. How
who
long ago did
also
she do
does that?
Um,
You know who also uses that method? Peter Paul Rubens.
Dear Paul Rubens.
Mhm.
Not familiar.
Famous Renaissance oil painter. People for the longest time were trying to figure out how he got his paintings to look so warm, right? Because
Yeah.
they all have this warm glow to them, where it's just like you see this warm light emanating from everywhere. And it turns out that he would mix in a little bit of like a bright orange or golden yellow to his gesso as he was preparing his canvas, right? So he would go through and tint his canvas with a specific color to create this warm light within his flesh tones and within all of his pieces. And no one could figure out how he did it for the longest time. And they finally broke it down, went through some kind of weird X-ray science thing, and figured out the fact that he was actually mixing color in with his gesso. And then from there,
Yeah.
it was as easy as adding a neutralized tone over top of it to gray it out, create more of like a neutralized shadow tone. You know, it was interesting to look at that from a more science perspective.
Yeah.
So I have to skedaddle. I have a meeting with the health department, so I have to go do that. I added some values in here. I don't know if you want to critique this real quick.
Yeah, let's check it out.
Skedaddle. Fumbled it in.
I can already tell
Yes.
you, Ricardo does not see enough triangles.
Hmm?
Let's check this out again here. Let me spotlight it real fast. Okay. Yeah, I dig it. I think the proportions are great. I think that you've formed planes really well with that cross hatching. I like the way that you're implementing the broader strokes for the darker areas, the more shadowed areas. It makes those highlights look way more intense. I think at this point you can start adding some background shading to it to kind of start giving that left side of the skull space even more of an intense kind of feel as far as the way the light hits it. And you can start introducing a little bit more of the mid-range of those strokes that you have going on that's conveying that medium tonal value.
Okay.
I think it looks great. That's a good job.
Thanks.
Yeah,
I'm really
and then-
starting to like this graphite thing. I forgot about graphite for a while.
Yeah. Awesome.
But
How
I'm gonna
long-
skedaddle. It was nice chatting with everybody.
Yeah. Good
Adios.
seeing you. Take it easy.
Bye bye. If my
Good luck
phone-
today.
Thanks.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm actually going to end up hopping off as well. I just got a call back from the car repair place. The car is not going to explode when we go to Gettysburg. That is a plus. Should be ready by tomorrow morning. That's another plus.
Okay, good.
But I'm
That's awesome.
probably going to have to sell my kidney. So I need to go and prep for surgery so I can remove that myself and try to find a buyer on the black market for it.
Let me call a couple people, see what we can do.
I mean, hey, if you know people that are dealing in human organs, let me know. There is a huge market for them out there. I
Nice.
think I can get like 15 to 20 grand for my kidney. My liver's not worth shit right now. Lord knows I've drank enough in my life. That's pretty much dead in the water. But I think I can still get some money for a kidney. So I'll give
Right
that
on.
a shot.
Well, good luck with that today, man. I hope it works out for you.
Yeah, thanks.
And
Thanks.
if the things pan out for the different, approach, man, we need to get a cars. Let me know. We can take care of
If
that.
we
No
need to
problem.
rent a car to get out there, we're renting a stretch Humvee.
I'm down. Let's start calling places today.
But we have to get the kind with the pool in the back and then take that on the highway.
Yes. Just
'Cause
sit
I
there
mean-
with the water just splashing against you.
Joe,
Not
how
what you do.
awesome would that be?
It'd be pretty funny.
Doing 85 down the highway in a jacuzzi in the back of a stretch Humvee.
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
But nah, car should be just fine in time. I just have to get the money together and wait until they call me and tell me it's ready. So
Brilliant.
Cool.
Well, good luck with that today, man. I hope it works out.
thanks a lot. I appreciate it. Take care, Faith. Always great seeing you. Lauren, take care. You're my hero. And Ricardo, keep that pencil moving, bud.
Absolutely, dude. Thank you so much for the support. Talk to you soon.
Anytime. Anytime. Later.
Peace. Yeah, I'm kind of on the same page. How about you, Faith?
Yeah, I gotta go to work.
Okay. Good luck today.
Thanks. My appointment
Yeah.
canceled.
Dang.
Yeah,
bummer.
but
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well,
Right.
I'm sure I'll be talking to you again. Thanks for joining us. And
good one.
see you later. I think I'll sign off here too, guys. It's been awesome. Thanks everybody for joining us, for listening in. Next week, we'll try to get up on this technology thing and have some more kind of involved videos and stuff like that that I'd like to share with you guys. Thank you, Lauren, so much. I appreciate all your time and effort that you put into all this stuff. Thank you, Reinventing the Tattoo. Thank you, everybody that's tuning in, and I hope to see you guys soon. Take it easy.